Mean 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the stream tonight. Thank you so much for being here early, guys. I'm your host, Ashton Forbes, and this is Malaysian Airlines Monday live stream. We've got a lot to talk about. It's going to be a spicy stream, 100%. So if you are brand new to this case, I have been investigating MH370 for the last year. The missing plane that disappeared 10 years ago. A little bit over 10 years ago now at this point, and was never found without a trace. There's clearly a cover-up at play. Monday, we talk about the missing plane. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different, and we are going to talk about a message that Salvatore Pais put out. Now, before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about setting the framework for this. So we're going to take a quick look at the video, and while I'm doing that, I'm also going to talk a little bit about Lou Elizondo. Lou Elizondo was just on with Don Jr. And actually, let's look at the video here first. So this is the video of Malaysian Airlines disappearing. This is what's called the satellite video. This video was published May 19th, 2014. It says received March 12th, 2014 in the description of this video. Now we can see these hypersonic plasma orbs intercept the plane. We can see them make a perfect triangle formation around the plane. Orbs in a triangle formation like this have been in the zeitgeist for at least like the last 10 years or so. These are not flying saucers. We're not looking at aliens here. And my contention has been that the United States government perpetuated this on the plane. Whatever we see going on here is United States government technology. Yes, please hit the like button, guys. Appreciate that. That'll just get the information to more people. That's really all we're trying to do here. One thing real quick I want to address, as we just watched a plane disappear out of space-time. Some people ask, why do you say I? Why are you being so egotistical? I get it either way. Sometimes I say we, and people say, what do you mean by we? If you say I, what do I mean by I? This is, obviously I've done a lot of work on this, but this is a joint effort, absolutely. Like you guys out there who have helped promote the videos, help bring them to people's attention, even just retweeting this content. Like you're the ones who made this possible. You know, I'm just a guy. So Lou Elizondo went on with Don Jr. And the biggest argument that he presents when asked, like, can we have figured this out, or can China or Russia have figured this out? He claims, well, maybe we could figure it out now. But no, at the same time, he tries to claim, like, we know they don't have this. We know they don't have this, like, which is bullshit because we're staring at it. And we've dug through the history. Like, we've figured out plasma sheaths in hypersonic travel for like 60 years. Okay. But he says it's like finding a fully built 747 in King Tut's tomb. This is a completely ignorant analogy. It's nothing like that. This technology and science is not a matter of invention. It's not a although there is a complex engineering aspect to it, the concepts of the science are not, they don't have some requirement that your civilization needs to be 1 million years advanced or something like that. It's literally just an understanding of the universe itself. And the reason why I can say that so confidently is that I was able to figure it out from publicly available, peer-reviewed scientific papers and journals that are already out there. It's not that I figured, it's not that I discovered secrets of the universe. I just discovered the people that already discovered it going back decades. So for me, at the end of the day, like, I don't care where we got the technology. I don't care how we figured it out. I don't care if we dug it up or if Roswell crashed. It doesn't matter to me. It's not 1947 anymore. It's 2024. So regardless, whatever here, right? This is our future either way, no matter how we look at it. Stop saying moist. So I absolutely challenge Lou Elizondo. And the biggest reason why I know he's full of shit, like, I just know he's full of shit. And it's when I say full of shit, like, he's telling the truth, but he's doing what counter intel ops do, which is they tell the truth, but then they leave out a really important aspect that, like, we figured this out. Two things. One, he says it's national security. What's national security? What is their national security about aliens? If they've got hyper advanced technology that we can't understand, according to Lou Elizondo, it's just too advanced for our puny brains to understand, then we don't stand a chance. There's no national security threat. That's like being worried about the universe exploding. Okay, we can't do anything about it. There's no national security threat for aliens existing. That's not a national security issue. The national security issue is, well, 0-point energy technology exists and free energy is possible, and all of our current socioeconomic way of life is irrelevant and obsolete. That's the national security issue. That's what he doesn't want to say. And the way that I know for a fact that he's full of shit is that he's constantly referencing Hal Poff. He's constantly bringing up Hal Poff's name on all these interviews. And I proved to you guys that I was name dropping Hal Poff even before Lou Elizondo was. Before he even started his book tour, 6 months ago, I already told Joe Rogan in private DMs, talk to Hal Poff. I'm telling him to talk to Hal Poff because Hal Poff knows he's looking at technology that we've figured out. Because his papers show it going back to 1989. They already show it. And Hal Poff is the one that organized these scientific papers that we are seeing right here. Warp drives, dark energy, and manipulation of extra dimensions. Traversable wormholes, stargates, and negative energy. Hal Poff is the one that these papers were commissioned through by the Defense Intelligence Agency. I think Eric Davis wrote both of these. He at least wrote the traversable wormholes one. And that Eric Davis is like Hal Poff's best friend. So, like, a lot of this guy is like, I mean, it's not just the puzzle pieces are all there. They just all fit together perfectly. It tells a very cohesive story about us having figured this technology out decades ago. Decades ago. It's 2024. This paper says 2010 on it. And you got to assume they had it figured out before this paper was published. So, I mean, I just look at this and I go, okay, well, there we go, right? That's all we need. So this version of the video is my favorite here. And I'm going to repeat what I'm about to say here in a minute, but I want to say it again. Like, we live in a matrix. Like, we are basically living in the movie The Matrix at the moment. Like, we've exposed MH370. We've researched the science of 0-point energy. We've identified Edward C. Lin as the leaker of the videos. Just last week, I identified Salvatore Pais basically has to be the engineer of the orbs based on his patents. All this stuff can be verified. So great timing. What's the next step? The mainstream media needs to do its fucking job. Like, they should be knocking on Salvatore Pais' door, asking him for a comment on if he built this technology. They should be knocking on Edward C. Lin's door, getting him to issue a statement on whether or not he leaked these videos. There should be no issue of idiots on social media trying to claim that it could be made in VFX. I don't give a fuck what morons on social media think is possible. I've given you the verifiable evidence. There's no more litigating this in social media. Yes, I get it. You don't understand science. You don't understand warp drives and wormholes. You don't understand how it's possible. That's a you problem. That's not a me problem. I've already given the world all the verifiable evidence we need. We can literally just ask the government as well. When the government issues no response, we'll know that it's real. Because if it was fake, they would just come out and say, nope, that's categorically fake. We were not filming it with our assets that are being portrayed in 2 different videos at the same time in perfect synchronization. And they should tell us exactly what they know about what happened to the plane. Like, the number one way to make these videos go away is for the government to come out and say, yes, these videos exist. They're not real because here's what really happened to the plane. We were watching it. That's what the government said, because we know they were watching the plane. We're seeing it on videos. We've researched everything about them. We've researched everything about the government's surveillance capabilities, their satellite systems, the acoustic detections. Like, we've got them dead to rights. We know they know what happened to this plane. It's not in doubt. So the only thing that can happen is the government comes out and tells us what they know about the missing plane. If these videos aren't what happened to the plane, what did happen? This plane's been gone for 10 years. The official story is that nobody knows what happened to the plane. That's the official story. How is that possible? This is not a Titanic situation. It's not the early 1900s. There's 10,000 satellites in outer space right now. 10,000. There's no way the plane just disappeared off the face of the earth without some exotic explanation, right? Okay. So what I did, if you missed last week, I was sitting there sipping on scissor. This is not the same scissor, if you're wondering. And if there are any children out there, then, don't abuse drugs or alcohol. Be a good boy. And this is juice. Last week, I was sitting there and I was looking at Salvatore Pais' patents. I basically have them memorized at this point. Magnetically compressed fusion reactor. That's our plasma orb. High frequency gravitational wave generator. That's the dark line we see in front of the orbs. High temperature superconductor. That's what we need to induce in the orb itself. Inertial mass reduction for a transmedium craft. That's literally what's happening with the orb by it basically connecting to the 0-point energy field. How could it be that Salvatore Pais has 5 patents approved by the Navy that the Navy Patent Office didn't want to approve, but the Navy had to step in and get it approved, be like, yep, this is actually possible. 5 patents by one guy. That one guy was super excited to talk to me about the videos, basically praising me nonstop. There's only one answer. Salvatore Pais made the orbs. Now, here's the part I want to clarify. A lot of people are like, oh, well, I don't think Salvatore Pais is a good guy. I don't think he would teleport an airplane away. Yes, the engineers have no part in these operations. The engineers are not the ones perpetuating the operation. In fact, if you look into how the SR-71 was developed, the people that were building the components to the SR-71 didn't even know what they were building back in the 60s. This is how the compartmentalization works. But if you developed even one aspect of those orbs, even one, and you're looking at the orbs in those videos, you're going, oh, shit, that's what they were building? Ooh, damn, right? So you would recognize your work. That's what I think is going on with Salvatore Pais here, because it explains how angry he is at all the idiots who are ignoring him, which I understand. Now, one other thing before we get into the next bit here is I'm going to stop saying the word retard. I mean, I may drop it here and there. Instead, we're going to just start calling people primitives now. A, because it's a lot funnier. And B, because we are just cavemen out here dressed in suits pretending to be smart. So I'm just going to start referring to people as primitives from now on. Because it just makes way more sense. Like, people are primitives out there. People are like, well, this looks like VFX to me. And I'm like, well, you're just a primitive because here's the scientific papers on warp drives and wormholes, right? Jesus. Kiss there to you. Hey, Ocean. Hope you're having a good day. And yeah, I do recognize my followers who have been around a long time. Yeah, so we're just going to start calling people primitives. So we've got Reddit brain, we got CNN brain, we got Moist in action. Now we got primitives as well, chat. Now we got primitives. And Augie Tech, I saw your comment as well. And guys, I'm not your traditional influencer. Like, I read a lot of the comments. I try to like every single comment. Sometimes I don't even agree, and I like the comments. So, you know, that's just me keeping it 100% real. Now, I want to clarify some things for some people before I read this next statement out here so you guys can get the context. Like, I know Salvatore Pais. I respect him highly. We communicate back and forth maybe once a week, maybe a little bit less. He started communicating with me a lot more over the last like 2 months. Before that, I would go months without talking to him at all. And when I usually talk to him, it was like, you know, not really specific stuff, just like, you know, there's evil forces at work, you know, we've got to work to get stuff out, but nothing specific. I know Dave Rossi. Dave Rossi is possibly my best friend. He's certainly up there. I talk to him almost every day and bounce ideas off of him. That he's never told me anything like, I worked on this weapon system or anything that I would consider to be like a violation of an NDA, although I don't know what his NDAs are. And he's never told me like, this is what you should go down, research, study, etc. I had no idea that Salvatore Pais sent this letter to Dave Rossi to have Dave Rossi post it. I want to make sure that people understand that. I had no idea that this happened. I checked my email actually this morning to see if Sal sent me this email to have me post it. Because sometimes he's asked me to post stuff. Actually, really all the stuff he's asked me to post has been the science stuff that I show you guys, his patents. So keep this in mind as well. Salvatore Pais, before I interviewed with him, was adamant that I post all his patents and his scientific papers on my Twitter account, which I was happy to do, of course. I mean, that's literally what I do. So I was like, yeah, sure, you know. And he was like, he really wanted me to do that. So occasionally he sends me that stuff. And that's why when you see me post those slides and stuff like that about the patent, like them fighting against the patent office, like he's asked me to do that. You should ask yourself, why has Salvatore Pais asked me to post all of his research and his patents? Isn't that kind of weird? It seems clear in retrospect. He's trying to tell the world, like, I made these orbs, or like I helped engineer them, or at the absolute minimum, he knows who made the orbs for sure. And the reason why I know that is there's just not that many people. There's not that many people in this engineering world, as we've learned. It's a small knit group of people. So it's like you realize it's the person that we're trying to find that is not that far away from us. So it just makes a lot of sense that he's the guy. Now, I saw a good question. I show this video occasionally, and I just posted it recently. Somebody asked about Michaelson Morley experiment regarding the ether. Michaelson Morley experiment made one major mistake, guys. The major mistake that the Michaelson Morley experiment made was that it only did it horizontally as opposed to vertically. This experiment was done by Martin Gruznik in 2009. So he spins
during this rotation.
There's no interference pattern shift here. You can see there's no interference pattern shift. You slip this forward. And they thought, oh, well, there must not be an ether then, or the ether must be moving with us. Otherwise, you would see the interference pattern change. This is just an interferometer. So what did Martin Gruznik do? He turned it vertical. He flipped it on its side. Just flipped it like this. Same exact experiment. Now what do we see? We see the interference pattern shift very clearly. This shows that there is an ether. Then the ether itself is connected to gravity, which changes as we change our altitude, relatively speaking, change our height. So there you go. This is like, I don't know how this is being ignored. Like, there's no other explanation for this as far as I can tell. I've looked online. The ether is real. The ether is represented by gravity because gravity is an induced effect by relative energy densities, 0-point energy densities. This is also how you combine energy with matter. I mean, the planet itself is just a big, huge ball of energy that's condensed. So, sorry to go on a sidetrack there, but I wanted to address that. Okay. So, let me see if there's any other questions before we get into this. So, Salvatore Pais sent a letter to Dave Rossi, asked Dave Rossi to post it. Dave made a video and he reads the letter and he also then adds on some of his own commentary, which we're about to review. Yeah, the Martin Gruznik thing is like huge. And yes, the ether is invisible because the ether is an extra dimension as already figured out by Kaluza Klein, which is Kaluza and Klein in 1926. 1926, 100 years ago. They already figured that out. It's invisible because it's below our perceptible level. It's too small. It's at the Planck scale, which is the smallest, 10 to the minus 53. We can't perceive things that small. And it's just like everything starts to add up. And part of the reason you'll see is like these physicists and stuff freak out on me because what I'm doing here doesn't just expose the physics, but it exposes that these people are all frauds and idiots. Like, how have other PhDs not figured this out? How has the world ignored this? This is like a giant black eye to the entire physics community that they missed this. And to be honest with you, I love it. I love exposing academia, the media, the government. I mean, this case is the best case I could have ever hoped for. And I get to do science stuff. I love science. I've checked out Ken Wheeler's stuff just on the side. The problem with Ken Wheeler is I can't understand what the hell he's talking about half the time. What I try to do is like bring it down for people who are like regular people to understand the concepts, because that's what we have to do. Now, a lot of people also ask me like, hey, Ashton, like, weren't you promoting free energy and a free energy device? Yes. And it's real. And then people say, well, why don't you show it? Because what I learned is that it doesn't matter. And in fact, it might be a liability. If I come out and show a free energy device, then they're going to have some expert not review the device at all and go on and debunk it and claim that this is not possible because I learned the laws of thermodynamics don't allow this to be possible, even though I've explained how it is like dozens and dozens and dozens of times. That's the real state of our world. And what that means is that the only way to get this information out is we have to enlighten people. We have to explain how it's possible for people. We have to explain how it's possible. And then it will become self-evident. Okay. Yeah. And in fact, they might even deem it illegal. There's literally places where 0-point energy research is banned on this country, partially because people are afraid that it's real and that what it would mean. And then partially because they just don't think it can be possible. Like, that's how powerful brainwashing is. And it's not limited to one side of the political spectrum or another. Just brainwashing is brainwashing. And until we can learn to think critically, we cannot break free of that. And that's why I'm spending so much time on this research, on the science, to explain it to people, because when we get to that point, it becomes a lot easier. So let's get to the letter now, guys. Yeah, Kaluza's theory probably should get more credit on its own. Klein added to it because there were some gaps, basically. So, I mean, you can break down the science very easily. Kaluza Klein, 1926. Sakharov, 1967, promoted that 0-point energy explains gravity. Puthoff basically proved that it is and proved it's consistent with general relativity. And then Puthoff and Haish came in and said, this also explains inertia. And then Puthoff and Cole came in and said that this does not violate the laws of thermodynamics either. There you go, guys. You can clip that if you want. That's how fast it is. Okay. Let's get to this. Oh, and then one more thing I want to say before I go on to this is that I support Salvatore Pais unanimously. Like, no doubt whatsoever. Salvatore Pais is legit. His patents are legit. I've talked to the man. I trust him implicitly. He's not a disinformation agent or anything like that. I would do basically anything for this guy. If he's in trouble, I will support him, just like I would support Edward C. Lin, 100%. Okay. So let's listen to his statement. I think we're just going to watch it on Twitter here. Thank you, Matt. I saw that pop up. Appreciate you, brother. A lot of people as well have told me. Dave has told me, as well as others. And this is gonna make sense when we watch the full video. But Dave has told me, you've done enough. You can stop if you want. Like, you've done enough. You've done more than you need to do for pushing disclosure forward, pushing the science forward. It's my choice to keep going with it. 100% my choice. What up, Mark? Welcome, brother. Welcome. Okay. So here is the full video.
Coming from Dr. Sal Pais. You who do not believe in my advanced sci-tech are missing a great deal when it comes to the engineering of the Pais effect and the superforce. Just think, why would someone of my advanced doctoral pedigree waste his time for over 10 years if there was no value to these concepts?
So I'm going to address these point by point here. Why would someone of Sal's pedigree waste time on this if there's no value to this? This refutes the argument that people present that like, oh, it's a limited hangout. We're just trying to confuse our enemies with fake science. I literally have people who are very smart in my replies, in my DMs, trying to tell me, well, it could just be a big psyop where we're just trying to confuse our enemies with this information so that, so what? So they think we have technology we don't really have. How does that do anything? It doesn't even make sense. So you're telling us we waste all this money here, trick our own scientists and engineers. We're saying it's not a psyop. And somehow we do this all just so that Russia is like.
Once you understand that there is great value.
I don't know why that just started. Just so that these people are like, oh, yes, we're going to go waste money on this. Like this doesn't make any sense. It's completely counterintuitive. You don't bother like pushing science out there that's not real. You just hide the science that is real. And then when people get close to it, you just lead them astray. That's how you really do it.
My advanced doctoral pedigree waste his time for over 10 years if there was no value to these concepts. Once you understand that there is great value to these ideas, only then will you unlock the ninth gate to the kingdom of shadows, allegorically speaking, of course.
So that is Plato's allegory of the cave, where like we don't see the truth right in front of us. We don't believe what we see with our eyes. We're looking at the shadows on the wall, and we're perceiving the shadows as reality. When instead, all we have to do is turn our gaze, and we can just see the true reality that looks completely different.
For those naysayers out there, before you dismiss my ideas, do the math and perform the physics. Then and only then will you see that my physical mathematics, that is mathematics that is guided by the physics, not vice versa, makes sense. The fact that it is the superforce, which acting locally on the spatial temporal geometric structure generates energy density, hence creates ordinary matter, should give you cause for pause. Remember what that gent by the name of Bob Lazar said about the smoothness of the ET craft, as if it was grown out of space-time itself, 3D printed from the space-time fabric.
Okay, so there he's bringing up the idea again of 0-point energy. You can tell he knows Puthoff. He references Puthoff in his papers. And he's saying that we can literally just pull energy out of the vacuum, this sea of energy. And not only just energy, but elements. He's saying that if you were sufficiently advanced, you could pull energy right out of the vacuum and turn it into literal elements, whatever element you want, right on the spot, right there, right on the spot, potentially by manipulating plasma, or maybe even something beyond that as well. And with no seams. If you guys watched the I think it was Saturday live stream we did, I spoke about the fact that with plasma, if you have a craft, it needs to have no seams. You can't even have a door. Because if you do, then all the atmosphere on the inside is going to get sucked out. This is why you make a coherent ball of plasma, just like Salvatore Pais' patent.
Before you call me a charlatan and a crank, and call my new perspective on old physics pseudoscience, quantum mumbo jumbo, or physics word salad, please take the time to consider the conditional possibilities. Cognitio est potentia, nihil sine lux. Only via the Pais effect can the Schwinger limit be broken. Attosecond lasers, or 8-second lasers, will not do the job unless 10 to the 39 such modules of milliwatt titanium sapphire laser capability is used as a unified photonic field, the logistics of which is insane from an engineering perspective.
So that was really weird. So guys, if you've been watching my streams, you know I've been talking about attosecond lasers like every single week. I mentioned that attosecond lasers won the Nobel Prize last year, 2023, which you wonder why. And you realize like the lower the time interval, like from nanosecond to attosecond or picosecond or whatever they're pentosecond lasers, that you're able to increase the frequency. And then in theory, you're able to focus the energy more and more and more, increase your energy more and more. So here he's saying you can't use attosecond lasers unless you use this, what was it, sapphire titanium crystal, basically, in order to focus them or whatever to achieve the energy levels. So I'm right there. He's giving away like, hey, this is how you can get the energy level high enough. But he says you need 10 to the 39. That's a huge, huge, huge amount of energy for a laser. So what this is a nod to me and us, the work that we've been doing. But it's also telling us that we don't need lasers to pull this off. Is that the plasma in there is not using a laser on the inside. It's probably just using a resonant standing wave. So a standing wave is a wave that's just basically consistent, as opposed to like one that's just all messy and all over the place and random. So instead, it's probably using parametric oscillations, maybe magnetic, maybe electric. We don't 100% know, but it's using frequency and resonance instead. So also think of like the swing analogy. You're pushing the swing. Yep. So there you go. Let's keep going.
Insane, he says in quotes. You can trust my tech know-how on that subject matter. If not, look at the physics and see for yourself. Only by unification can we free ourselves from our unacknowledged slavery condition. Please remember that as long as our survival depends on others, we are all slaves. The others are not. Unless we come together and strive to enhance and support each other's ideas, we shall fall apart, and this human civilization with us will. For we fight principalities and powers that do not conform to what one would call good and divine in nature. I believe in man-made tech, which is represented by the Pais effect and the engineering of the superforce. I do not believe in this ET tech or anything that has been reverse engineered from it. Consider this final thought. Anything that is derived from the ET tech, UFO or UAP, can be defeated by the ETs or interdimensional. After all, it is their technology that they would act against in case of a war of the worlds.
Now, that was something I've never heard from anybody. First of all, he's saying that we could potentially be slaves, promotes the idea of the prison planet scenario, mentions that, like, hey, if we figured this out from reverse engineering, then we would not want to engineer the same technology that we found because the people that have that technology would know how to defeat it. Instead, we would want to make our own technology with it, human technology. Here's a crazy thought. It scared me a little bit when I thought about this. I'm going to go full screen for a second. He mentions Bob Lazar as well. Bob Lazar promotes that they use this element 115, which ended up being a real element later on. And this is how these ET craft fly. What if there are aliens, hypothetically, that are visiting us and their craft can only do warp drive and they use element 115 as a fuel source? Maybe it's got some properties. Maybe they don't know how to make a wormhole, but they know warp drive. Like kind of like how we know rockets, but we don't know about warp drive and stuff like that. What if aliens that are out there, they can use warp drive and they can get here from 5 to 40 light years away, but they can't make a wormhole? And then what if we figured out, hey, we looked at their warp drive and we went, oh, Einstein's metrics say that if you can make a warp drive, you can also make a wormhole. And it's just a matter of amplifying the energy strong enough and then maybe entangling your object to snap it from one place to the other. That's a scary thought. What if we've developed a super weapon? Again, this is all hypothetical, but what if we developed a super weapon based on alien technology that's actually more powerful than alien technology? Because we took the same scientific concepts. Again, this is in a discovery. It's not an invention. So we discovered 0-point energy from something that we dug up, something that crashed, whatever you want to believe. And we were like, you know what? We're going to make it even more powerful. Holy shit. That is wild. And it's weird that Salvatore Pais is bringing that up. He's like just mentioning that, like that might be what's going on here. Now, that would be national security. Absolutely. If we invented some super weapon that's more powerful than what extraterrestrials have, shit. And the other part of the reason why that kind of shook me is because I've told you guys that no matter what the situation is with non-human intelligence, we should be trying to reverse engineer the technology. If they're good, if they're bad, if they're neutral, it doesn't matter. Any scenario, you should be reverse engineering the technology. So what if that's a scenario? That's one to think about, guys. That's pretty wild, especially because like I've learned that basically everything Salvatore Pais has told me in our first interview before I even understood it has basically been true, including I'm wondering about the idea of conscious plasma as well. So when he says something like this, I'm like, maybe. So let's finish the last few seconds of this.
Think and think again. You shall realize that this is the truth. Tesla knew this. That's why the great man went his own way and said, fuck you to JP Morgan. How many people today would be of the natural greatness of Nikola Tesla? I know of absolutely none. Do you? And Dr. Pais ends this with saying, all men die, not all men know how to live.
Wow. That is a powerful, powerful statement, guys. So Salvatore Pais comes out, says, we have human technology. The human technology might be from a reverse engineered technology, but it's potentially even more advanced than that because we need it to be. We need it to be different than aliens. It can't be the same, otherwise they're going to be able to defeat it. That's alarming. He also says, hey, why would I be wasting my time on this if it's not real? Also notice, like, he doesn't address, like, I literally last week before this, and I know he's watching my streams, I basically pointed out that he's the guy that must have engineered these orbs. He's got to be. Like, who else came up with it? But he can't say anything, even if he was, right? These are what we learned about special access programs is that you're not even allowed to acknowledge the existence of the program, and you might be required to lie in a scenario where you get cornered on it as well. So to me, it's like, it's pretty weird that he's making this statement like this. He also made a statement in the past saying that like he would never harm himself, and he asked Dave and I to post it. I retweeted Dave's comments about it. So this is pretty wild. So this, I don't know. I don't know what to make of this. What I will say is that it seems like the engineers, and we're going to watch the rest of Dave's video here in a second. The engineers are upset. They're upset because the intelligence community, the United States government, we're doing horrible, heinous shit to keep this stuff secret, right? We are disappearing airliners. We are trying to monopolize the technology from our foreign adversaries, right? We are, who knows how many people we've silenced, discredited, who knows what companies we've played favorites with this technology. We're doing horrible shit out there, guys. And they want the truth to come out. There are multiple factions out there. And the faction that I align myself with is whoever Dave Rossi and Salvatore Pais are with. I'm with those guys. I've aligned myself with them. I think that one of the other factions, I've just, from being in this for a year now, is like Lou Elizondo, Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp, Gary Nolan, Ross Coulthart. These guys are in a faction with themselves as well. And I get the feeling like they are being told, you can tell the world about aliens, but you can't tell the world about our crazy advanced weapon technology that we're reverse engineering or whatever the hell we're doing, And what these people, and they don't mind, they want aliens to come out. They don't want 0 point energy to come out because it's going to collapse society. And if you guys doubt me, like the people that are hiding it, they at least believe it's going to collapse society. And at the same time, like it's going to expose their crimes. Like it's too much. It's too much to be like, yes, we've got aliens, but we've also got this reverse engineered technology. And we've turned it into a literal doomsday weapon. Oh, and not just that as well. Also, we just sometimes decide to make civilian airliners disappear. And we were able to convince you that it's just normal because we have the media also lie to you. Like that. You tell that to your classic, CNN brain, and they're going to go full primitive, I think there's a term chimp out or whatever. They're going to lose their minds. They're going to lose their minds entirely, 100%. So there you guys go. The secret is 0 point energy. What you hear in a lot of these streams is basically equivalent to a skiff. Like this is stuff that like literally is probably classified, and they can't do anything about what I'm doing because if they were to try to censor what I'm saying, then it would prove that they're trying to hide it. So this is where they're caught they're just caught in the middle here, where it's like, if they want to say that the stuff is a lie and that I'm making this all up, they have to let me say it. And if it turns out that it's real, well, they have to let it go, because if they censor it, then it proves that it's real. Tough, guys. Okay. So yeah, from now on, they're just primitives, guys. That's how we refer to the others. I'm just joking, guys. Okay, let's listen to the full interview here. And then I'm going to make a little statement after this full interview as well. So I listened to this as well.
This is a
Okay, so I'm going to skip ahead to after this thing's over. I think it's somewhere around 4 minutes.
you folks as Dave. Everything I just read was from Dr. Pais. Everything I just said there. Now this is me, Dave, speaking to you. Why are there sending individuals to tell certain scientists that they're not allowed to do certain things?
Oh, wait, before we do this, there were a couple questions. Somebody asked about F equals ma. One of the most basic physics equations there is force equals mass times acceleration. What happens if your mass is 0? What happens if your mass becomes 0 and F equals ma? Take a look at that. And this is how the physics equations are correct. What we're doing is we're just breaking it. So I give this analogy with like this magic cards here. When you make a magic card deck, you're trying to break the game. You're trying to get to infinity. You know, that's what you're trying to do when you're trying to make a really good deck in Magic. Same thing applies to physics. You're breaking the physics. We're making mass 0, and now we get this weird infinity. Well, what does infinity mean? What does 0 mean when we get 0 as well? And what happens if we get to negative time or negative gravity? You know, these are the things. So yeah, 0 mass means no inertia. Exactly. Now, the other thing is people mention Q. I want to bring this up because I am not a QAnon person. I've followed QAnon. I'm pretty sure QAnon is not really a real thing. I think it's just people mostly just LARPing. I did get pinged on this Telegram account or whatever. That's some kind of Q drop or something like that. I looked at it and I immediately realized that somebody's just ripping my content, and then they're just maybe changing. They don't fully understand my content, so they don't get everything quite right. And then they're kind of building a narrative related to it. Yeah, it's fun. Who cares? It's harmless. I don't care. They can do whatever they want with it, but you should not associate any Q stuff with anything that I'm doing. But yeah, anyone wants to spread the content, you want to make up your own fan fiction, whatever, go nuts. I don't care. Honestly, the more people that realize that that MH370 was a result of the U.S. government, yeah, we're aligned. I don't care. You know, that's like we just need to get away from this idea of like it was a suicidal pilot and he was like a terrorist or something, and he was studying ocean topography and trying to get the plane to go in a deep hole where no one would ever find it. Like, we got to just get away from this kind of stupid shit. We got to at least realize, like, the U.S. government's implicated here, right? Like, no matter what you believe, U.S. government is definitely implicated in the disappearance of this plane. Okay, so there we go. Okay, let's go back to that.
To preserve what? A national security secret that the Japanese, the Brazilians, the Chinese, and the Russians are openly publishing? So in many countries outside of North America, people are referencing Dr. Pais's work. In the case of, for example, room temperature, superconductivity, and so on and so forth. But for some reason in North America, if you're within the system, you get shit on if you try and even discuss it or put a proposal together that would try and get you to essentially engineer this. Another thing, and what I'm about to say here is public, so people can look this up if they like. Why are there certain individuals that have said that they have signed affidavits, sworn affidavits, saying they have seen certain devices made by a certain individual capable and operational? That's what I want to know.
So what's Dave saying here, guys? Some of the stuff that Dave's saying here, we've talked about in private conversations, maybe not exactly the same words, but like there's some shit going on behind the scenes. And I generally know the types of circles that Dave runs in as well. It's not like I know all his people or whatever, but like he's connected. He's pretty connected. He knows that some of these people behind the scenes. So he's not just bullshitting, making something up right here. Like this is actually a situation where like Dave has some inside stuff. And what he told me, I messaged him about this, of course. I was like, damn, dude, you just went hard. You went hard in this video. And crap, I just lost my train of thought there. He's angry at the situation behind the scenes where these scientists are being discredited here. And in some cases, like people know this stuff is real and they just lie about it. Like people will lie about Salvatore Pais' stuff and say like Eric, let's just name people, right? Like Eric Davis says that Salvatore Pais' stuff is nonsense. Eric Davis 100% knows this shit's real. He does. And to be honest with you, like I still respect Eric Davis. I get that he's, maybe he's towing the company line. Like you don't end up getting on the bigot list in CIA unless you know how to lie at the right times. But that's what's happening. And people like Dave, they're fed up with it, man. They're fed up with it. So, I told Dave, like, yeah, go for it. Just like, be careful about what you say. I don't want Dave to get hurt. I don't want Sal to get hurt or anything like that. But it's time to push back, man. It's time to put on the armor and be like, look, we're making ourselves publicly available too. The Elizondo crew and all the Lou crew or whatever, they want to have their own disclosure thing where they try to get people to, believe there's blue telepathic aliens visiting us. Go nuts, bro. Go nuts. We, the Sal, Ashton, Dave, whatever, our crew, like we're trying to get the technology out to people. We're trying to get that out to people so that people can realize, like, yes, we've got some crazy shit going on. It's based on 0-point energy. We can get free energy. That's possible, et cetera, et cetera.
And then when journalists reach out to the, public university professors, those professors just, instead of actually trying to understand potentials, the magnetic vector potential in particular, and a handful of other possibilities that would unify the strong nuclear force with the electroweak force, why do they dismiss it as nonsense?
Yeah, and so another thing he says is he talks about these other countries. Like other countries are much more open about this stuff. And if you guys look at Salvatore Pais' patents, like there's 3 different Chinese researchers that are like quoting his patents in their research. Like this is what, and I'll say this is that Salvatore Pais told me like, hey, look at who's quoting my research. And I went and looked. And you're like, this is part of the reason why Salvatore Pais and some of these guys are worried is like, they're going to pass us up because we've been lying so long to America and to the Five Eyes and our allies that normal people just don't believe any of this shit's real. They can't tell the difference anymore. China, their people know it's real. Russia, Brazil, all these other countries, like they don't have the same restrictions on the science that we have with the Invention Secrecy Act, with the Atomic Secrecy Act, with the Mansfield Amendment. They don't have the same laws in place.
People have said about Dr. Pais's work, and I've seen these comments online, they said, if anything, if even 1% of what Dr. Pais's patents entail are true, we would have to redefine our understanding of electricity. Why not? Why?
I fucking love Dave right here. If even 1% of what Salvatore Pais is saying is true, we would have to redefine our understanding of electricity. Yes, guys. Electricity is a broad term, by the way, guys. So that's why I don't use the term electricity very much, except for when I use it to unify the general relativity and quantum field theory. Because electricity, electric charge, that's what everything is made up of. Yes, we have to understand, we have to reinterpret our understanding of energy. Where is energy coming from? This is why I tell you guys, where is energy coming from? This is why the first thing I tell physicists that try to challenge me, and you guys saw one yesterday, they're trying to come at me, you won't answer a quantum mechanics question. Well, you won't answer me a basic question of where energy is coming from, right? And this is why the perfect question, where is energy coming from, is because these people think that there was a big bang. So if there was a big bang, where did all that energy come from? They'll be like, well, that came from nowhere. And you'll be like, okay, where's all the energy coming from right now? Is it coming from nowhere? No, that's impossible. So there's a contradiction, and you can point out their logical contradiction. Does energy come from nowhere, or does it come from somewhere? It comes from the ether. the Dirac Sea. And all this science about the Dirac Sea, T. Henry Morey, it's all been out there. It's just sitting out there. You can just read it right now, The Sea of Energy by T. Henry Morey. You can find out about Dirac holes and negative energy states. It's all out there, this sea of energy that we're in. Right? Hell, it was Sakharov that said, like, basically the planet is like mass sitting on top of the ocean of energy. What the hell, guys? Come on, man. Wake up, physicists.
Why not? What's with the bullshit politics? There's a lot more that I would like to say, but I'm probably going to leave it for a second video because I'm very upset at certain people that claim they're out there trying to push for the truth, but they're fucking lying. They're lying. Not all of them, but some of them. Why? Because if you don't play ball with them, then you get blackballed. You get blacklisted. What happened to the notion of thinking outside the box? As a matter of fact, I'll go one step further. I saw a professor, I forgot his name, so forgive me, but it was a recent clip that was published on a certain channel, fairly well known in the academic community, this channel. Why is it that this person said, for example, whenever I try and get my PhD students to come up with something unique for their thesis, they don't do it because they're afraid to challenge the status.
God, Dave is so smart. He says his PhD students, he says, he saw a video that said this professor says, why I challenge the PhD students to come up with an idea for the thesis. What do you guys think they do? The answer is obvious. All the students ask the professor what they should write their thesis on. Nobody comes up with their own ideas. Why? Because they want to make sure that the thing that they're going to write about has been approved. It's been approved. This is the problem with academia. It's all about groupthink. It's all about brainwashing and being told what you're allowed to think and what you're not allowed to think. I want to live in a world where people are not afraid to have different ideas, even if some of those are not true and some of them are true. Critical thinking can only thrive when we have a situation where we're allowed to say whatever we want to say. And instead of thinking to conformity, yes, conformity, exactly, guys. So what do you think Dave's about to say right here?
Quote, instead, the students are asking the professor what they should write. That tells me that very few people are thinking outside the box. I have a friend who I've known and who I've had on the show quite some time ago, probably 18 months ago at this point, very smart gentleman who was kicked out of multiple universities for proposing the notion of some type of higher symmetry electromagnetics. Why? Why are there people playing games against other very smart people? When you spend years trashing someone publicly and privately, what do you expect them to do? I'm fucking serious. What do you expect them to do?
He's basically saying here, like, Sal is tired of it. Sal's tired of being trashed. The guy came out with his patents 2016, 2017. It's been nothing but people trashing him. And somebody asks or said earlier, well, it's about replication. Replication is the biggest problem with academia. This is how they were able to censor LK99. Just because you don't know how to make a lasagna doesn't make lasagna fake. Replication is not a requirement at all. The moment you understand the physics, then you understand that it's going to be possible to create it. Now, the other issue is that, yes, we should be able to produce something. The problem is the requirements. You can't just produce a lot of this stuff in your garage. You can make small scale experiments, but that's not going to convince anybody. And if you want to make a big scale experiment, in a lot of cases, you need what these private defense contractors have, which is the best possible technology and the best possible materials there are. The defense contractors have their own fabrication labs, And for example, and this is not to shit on Jeremy or alien scientists, but like when LK99 came out, Jeremy and Michael Perrone did a reproduction in their own lab. But this was like, it's like little kids playing with a toy bake set, like they're not able to do the same things that like these private professional labs can pull off. And here's the perfect example is what they were doing was they made their mixture and they heat it up. And what they're looking for is they break it and they look for some small part of it where the elements have combined to produce LK99 partially by chance and partially by the recipe that they followed. When you're in the private labs, they're not doing that. They can literally put the shit together at these tiny nanoscale level. They're not maybe at the atomic level, but they're at like the nanoscale level. So it's much, much, much more accurate and much more refined. And this makes all the difference in the world when you're trying to get the types of effects that you want at the large scale. You really have to have labs that have the right money. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to reproduce it. So partially, yes, you're right. You need to be able to reproduce the stuff. The other side, you have to realize this isn't something that some random guy in his garage is going to be able to go reproduce. You can't make a magnetically confined fusion orb in your garage. You need millions and millions of dollars worth of equipment.
You might say, Dave, you're upset. Of course I'm fucking upset. He's my friend. There's a lot more that I know that I'm not going to say here. But for certain people that are watching, let me make it very fucking clear. I know.
Shit, Chad, I love this Dave. Whoa, that scares me, bro. That scares me because I know Dave knows some shit, chat. I know Dave knows some shit. So when he says that, I'm like, whoo. Because here's the thing, right? And this is me speculating. I don't know this for a fact, but Dave knows what Sal's been working on, what Sal does. And he knows that Sal's not a joke and that Sal's not making this shit up. I tried to look up Sal's history on social media. He doesn't have a social media history. You try to look him up on the internet. He doesn't exist on the internet for like the last 15 years before his patents come out. He's basically a ghost out there. What has this guy been doing? He even says in his letter, for the last 10 years, why would I waste the last 10 years working on this? He's telling us he's been working on zero-point energy stuff. He's been working on gravitational wave devices for 10 years. He was working on this stuff. Like, this is another part of the reason why it's like, if Salvatore Pais is not the guy that made the orbs, like, he has to know who did. He has to.
Try and destroy people. For what? For greed? You gonna kill everybody? You know who I'm talking to. The right people that are watching this will see this and they'll fucking know. Instead of saying, let's share ideas, let's exchange. I'm not saying that we should put any one individual on a pedestal. Because science has to do with multiple people coming together and working together. People like idiots. Fucking idiots. Let me make that very clear. Idiots like Jack Sarfati, who allow himself to be handled by people like Ron Pandolfi for years. Who by the way, I'm sure Sarfati's not all there, by the way. You better watch your fucking mouth.
Holy shit, Jack. You hear that? You hear that, Jack Sarfati? Said Jack Sarfati's not all there mentally. Said he better watch his fucking mouth. We're in chimp mode, chat. We're going full chimp mode here tonight. Woo! And he called out Ron Pandolfi as well. Holy shit. So basically just said Ron Pandolfi is handling Jack Sarfati, which is kind of a not completely unspoken. Like, we know that's true because Jack Sarfati references Ron Pandolfi in like a bunch of interviews. And Ron Pandolfi is also mentioned by Dr. Stephen Greer as well. Like, Ron Pandolfi might be one of the most tenured CIA agents that's currently out there right now. Would not surprise me at all if Ron Pandolfi has his fingers in like everything out there. Wouldn't surprise me. Would not surprise me. So part of the reason of naming these people is because if anything were to happen, like, these should be suspects number one, right? Like, some dude who's been in the CIA like his whole life, you know, covering up this technology his whole life, you know, ruining people's lives, maybe getting jollies out of doing it as well. So this is why Dave is sounding off on these people. And truthfully, Jack Sarfati, he's kind of a piece of shit, right? He's kind of a dickhead, kind of just complete bastard in every possible sense. Like, I did an interview with him, and he like literally gave the StreamYard invite to the world. He posted it on social media. Like, what are you doing, Jack? It's obvious that he was trying to sabotage my interview with him, but he was doing it like he was a fucking toddler, you know? And then he was dropping racist stuff in my interview with Jack Sarfati. Like, the only reason why I didn't delete it is because I wanted people to see what kind of douchebag he is, you know? And I was nice to him. The only reason why I was nice to him in the interview, even though I think he's just a complete asshole, is because I want to give him all the rope he wants to hang himself for the most part. Like, Jack Sarfati, he understands physics and the math equations, but he doesn't understand engineering at all. And this is the biggest thing that holds him back. And this is why he's never been brought in the black world. This is why he's never been seen any of the secret shit, because he solely looks at it from the perspective of, he's trying to fit this square peg into a round hole. Jack Sarfati is just trying to jam that square peg into that round hole. Versus all the engineers. He's like the epitome of the physicists who they think that only stuff's possible based on what they learned with their equations, as opposed to what happens if the mass becomes zero, right? Like we were talking about before. And the engineers, they look at it from the perspective of, this is what's possible. This is what we see and what we can do. Now let's figure out how that makes sense with the physics, right? And this is why it's so important that if you want to be somebody who understands this, and this is for people who have children and what have you, it's not good enough just to be a physicist. If anything, be an electrical engineer instead. Tell your children, be an electrical engineer, and then have them learn the physics on the side. You need to know both. You have to know both. It's important. Okay. Let's he keeps going, so we're only halfway.
And I mean that. That's not a threat. I'm just saying, everyone's got dirty laundry. Why? Why do people feel the need to put other people down? There's a difference between civilly arguing with someone or having a civil debate on the science and then trashing somebody. The reason I'm saying what I'm saying is because Sal is a friend, but at the same time, I'm now currently in a position where if people want to come at me, they can come at me. Let me make that very clear.
Dave is not playing, bro. He's like, I'm in a position where you want to come at me, you want to come at me. He's like, I'm wearing a plain white tee. He's wearing a plain white tee right here. Yo, if a man comes at you and says, I'm in a position where you want to come at me, and he's wearing a plain white t-shirt, especially a V-neck, yo, this man is not playing around. You should be a little bit worried, man. Because people that like actually have power, they try not to show it, right? You don't want to overrepresent your hand. And if you don't have any power, then you want to pretend like you do have a bunch. Dave walks around with just a white shirt on.
This is a war, a mind game between good and evil. Between good and evil. Some of you might say, well, Dave, you're very upset. Well, if you heard even 10% of the things that I know that I was able to verify about the way in which certain technologies have been suppressed, especially when that person is a friend of yours, and I'm not speaking, again, I'm not saying it's Sal, I'm just saying in general, wouldn't you be upset? Imagine you work on something for years in your house or in your basement, and then all of a sudden someone comes in and just takes it away from you. Let me be very clear. I'm not saying that that was Dr. Pais. He's gone through his own stuff. That's why I said right after I read Dr. Pais's quote that everything I say from here on forward is of my own volition. There's not anyone telling me anything. I found certain things out on my own.
So Dave's basically saying like, hey, I figured out some shit and I know about some people's skeletons in their closet as well. And so I want to address one thing as well. Some people say, oh, did Dave say that he something about some blue aliens or whatever? Maybe, man. Let me put it to you like this, guys. These engineers, these guys have seen some shit that the world will never believe. Never believe. Right? They've seen technology that the world thinks is just not even possible. Straight up magic. And not just Dave, Sal, Brandenburg. This seems to happen to basically every engineer that starts to figure this out, because then they start to wonder, like, if you start to realize like magical, straight up magic, PFM, pure fucking magic is possible. Yep, there we go. Front runner new. Pure fucking magic is possible. Then you start to question what isn't possible anymore. This is why I don't rag on anybody. I try not to rag on anybody for their beliefs. You believe remote viewing is possible. You believe that you're having telepathic communication with aliens. Fine. I don't care. As long as you don't come at me, I won't come at you. You start coming at me saying, you think that orbs teleported the plane, and I find out that you're some kind of person who believes you have psychic powers or some shit, of course I'm going to make fun of you. Don't throw stones when you live in a glass house, right? And also, if you're a kind of person who think there's nothing magical out there at all, and that humans have just figured it all out and there's nothing else to figure out about the universe, then you also shouldn't throw stones. If you're a PhD and you can't say where energy comes from, and you can't figure out what dark energy is, and just something that we don't know, we have no idea, then you should not be putting down anybody else's ideas about physics. Unless you've got it all figured out. Just shut the hell up. Right? And this goes, this kind of connects where Dave isn't necessarily talking exactly about this guy, but like Bernardo Kastrup was this guy who wrote this article about Sal's papers saying like, I know about patents, and these patents were probably just like a marketing stunt. That was like his final conclusion. A marketing stunt? What are you talking about, man? These people are idiots. Or like the guy who was trying to rag on me about Ashton wouldn't answer a quantum mechanics question. Well, what the hell would that solve? Nothing. And then it does a follow-up post about narcissistic personality disorders and shit. And all I do is just look in the mirror, man. What is wrong with these kinds of people? A lot of these people, they want to argue based on I'm smarter than you, and I know my credentials mean more than you, and therefore you should listen to me because I'm an expert. No, respect is not given, it's earned. Earn your respect. Argue the ideas. Don't argue against the person. Argue against the ideas. This is what our society is just screwed on now. And nobody can argue against Salvatore Pais' ideas every time. Yes, it is ego. Absolutely. Every time with these people, it's ego. They just say his stuff is pseudoscience. What the fuck does that mean? What do you mean? Prove that it's wrong. Show the math. Explain conceptually why those ideas can't work. They can't do that. The reason why they can't do that is the same reason why you see nobody correcting anything that I say. Because there aren't any counter arguments. Like I post something about lithium-ion batteries, and I have 100 people in my replies saying that no, lithium-ion batteries can't burn this way. Blah blah blah. They can't burn this way. You get 1 million people correct. You say one wrong thing on the internet, even vaguely wrong, and your replies will be inundated with people correcting you. When I post about 0-point energy and 0-point physics, nobody has ever corrected me on any of it. Any of it. Ever. This should be a major realization point. Not just that there's something here to look into, but that we should be the type of people that are open to new ideas and new concepts, especially if the implications of them are so massive that they would change our entire world if they're real. Something that big deserves a closer look. Instead, we're a type of society where we're like, nah, I don't want to believe that. We're just not going to look. Like it could change our whole reality, whole civilization, everything we know about the world. But no, I'm just going to call that pseudoscience and move on. That's what Dave's upset about.
When is this going to stop? I'm not saying we all have to sing Kumbaya by the fire, so to speak, but to say that someone's work is a word salad or physics mumbo jumbo. What kind of person in your heart do you have to be to constantly do this for years and years and years so that you can be what, a bitch for the national security apparatus? It was deemed by certain individuals in the Navy that Dr. Pais's work was feasible and was not considered classified. And I'm going to leave that there. People who have been in the alternative science field make fun of people, and I'm not talking about myself or Dr. Pais. I've seen this with others. They make fun of people because they're children. They're idiots. Some of them are fucking drug addicts. Yeah. And some of them are not the nicest people.
Is he saying that Jack Sarfati's a drug addict? That would actually track. Is he trying to say that Jack Sarfati's a drug addict and Ron Pandolfi's not a nice guy? Oh shit, bro. If that's true, dude, he might have just let it slip right there. Yeah, Jack might be a sniffer. What if, because remember, Jack was all he talks about these parties all the time too. Dude, he might be dropping little hints here. This is pretty wild.
This is a mind war, but this is a spiritual war. If someone comes to you, and I'm saying this to the audience, and you see they've been badly beaten up in a physical sense, and they tell you, no, I was beaten up simply because I just questioned a couple of things and I wanted to propose an outside perspective, how would you feel? I'm speaking metaphorically, but how would you feel? Excuse me, hypothetically. This needs to stop because there are certain people out there that are genuinely blinded by their own stupidity that threaten inventors by saying, I'm going to report you to your commanding officer or what have you, or your program manager. You think you're a fucking tough person behind the screen? Really? I've stayed quiet long enough. This has to stop. This has to stop. I'll give you an example. Bernardo Kastrup, the guy blocked me. Also, simply because what? Because I made a tweet about asking why he wrote an article entitled The Pais Effect. What does it really mean? Or something of that nature. I'm paraphrasing there. And then Bernardo replies saying that saying essentially that he was not actually questioning the feasibility of Sal's patents, but rather the feasibility of the I believe it was the patent officers that approved it. Stop being a smartass. You know what the fuck you're doing when you title the article that. You prima donna little bitch.
You prima donna little bitch. Woo! Chat, I'm getting fired up. I'm gonna make my own little statements. I'm gonna make my own little statement after this, guys. I can't let Dave just come out here and just start cooking people without me getting a little in the kitchen, cooking up a little fire here. I mean, this man's calling out Jack Sarfati. He's calling out Ron Pandolfi. He's saying, I know what your skeletons are. He's basically implying that somebody's got a drug addiction. Calls out Bernardo Kastrup for his article on Salvatore Pais. Basically says that, like, you think you're safe behind the keyboard. Like, I know shit about you. This is actually scaring me a little bit. But you know what? If we're doing this, we're doing this, bro. We're doing this. It's like when Leroy Jenkins went in World of Warcraft and went to fight the mobs. Like, up, Leroy Jenkins. We're going all in, baby. We are going all in. If this is the time, bro, here we go. Here we go. It's time for disclosure, bro. That means I'm going to be cooking Lou Elizondo on a daily.
This video is never going to get taken down, not unless YouTube takes it down. I may not have all the money in the world, but I'm in a position right now where this has to stop. Everybody likes to talk. Everyone likes to throw metaphorical punches, but nobody likes to take them. And I have a friend whose message I read earlier in this episode, who's taken punch after punch after punch after punches and has been forced to stay quiet. Metaphorically, getting punched with his hands tied to the wall. And you have people, for example, like Jack Sarfati saying that Dr. Paez's work is nonsense. Jack, when was the last time you had a clearance, you fucking idiot? You are a wannabe. You pretend like you know things. And you say that if Putin asked you to go and brief him on UAPs, that you'd go do it? There's a million things I can say that are wrong with that sentence, with that statement that you said. You're a has-been. I'm going to leave this there.
He's called him a has-been. He is. Jack's totally a has-been. Bro, he's just dropping. He's being as based as you can be right now, dropping hot fire. My God. Not playing around anymore.
Some of you may say, Dave, I've never seen you so upset. Believe me if I told you that if you knew the things that I knew with regards to the way in which some of these conniving tactics were performed on many people, including my friends, you'd be upset too.
I've literally never seen Dave this upset before. Like, he's the chillest dude ever. I've never seen him this upset. I've met Dave in person multiple times. Like, something obviously happened behind the scenes. He doesn't really tell me too much about what's happening behind the scenes. I don't want to even ask. I think it's better that I know less, because I'm a smart enough guy, and Dave knows I can like piece together stuff intuitively as well. So it's like, I can tell some shit's going down here. Like, I'm exposing these videos of the United States government with our secret plasma orbs teleporting a plane away. And I've got one engineer who I think has made the orbs, who is like desperate to talk to me, is now gagged. And now he's being like discredited behind the scenes. And I've got another engineer here, Dave, who, like, the more I talk to, the more sure I am that the science is 100% legit. He went on Tim Pool with me in January. This guy right here went on Tim Pool with me in January. And he said, I've seen these effects in the lab. Talking about teleportation. I've seen these effects in the lab. Private labs. Ones where you have to sign NDAs and you can't say where you were or anything like that. Right? This guy right here. It's like, do you guys really think the videos are fake, man? How can you still think the videos are fake? Like, I've got engineers on my side here trying to fight to get the technology out. That's the only way to interpret what's going on here. There's never been like fake hoax videos where all of a sudden engineers are coming out and they're like, you've got to declassify my technology, right? Like, that's what they're doing here. Like, that's not a thing that happens with Corridor Crew hoax videos and shit like that. Man, I get it. It's hard to believe, but like, every single thing adds up to the same story. Like, we're trying to get disclosure, and people are trying to prevent that from happening as much as they can.
After this, I'm going to be myself again, but I'm standing up for a friend, like many of you would. If any of the names that I mentioned in this video want to reach out to me, reach out, because I've tried and you've all blocked me. Because what? Because I call you out for your bullshit? I'm not saying you have to go and tell the truth to the world for those that are in the know, but don't mislead people. The same way that I made that previous video before this one, where I talked about let's cut the crap. There's a way that you can still give hints and tell the truth without manipulating people or leading them down the wrong path. I'm going to leave that there. And I hope you all did not take this too negatively, because at the end of the day, it's about, ironically enough, after I said my piece, because I'm frustrated for a friend, but at the end of the day, after I calm down, I must admit that it's all about doing our best to try and come together or aggregate in a way that would allow us to progress. Some of you say, Dave, why did you Why did you license some of your IP out instead of telling the world? Because look what happens when you tell the world. This is a perfect example. That's all I have to say. I hope you all, I promise the next video will be far more positive, far more educational. But this needed to be said.
Bro, what? His account is gone. Okay, I'm going to read a message from Dave Rossi right now. This message I got 5 minutes ago. I can't log into my X account anymore. I tapped the app and it took me to the login page with no memory of my login or anything. I'm not looking for you to post about this at all. I just want you to know that if others can't find me, it's not because I did it myself. I was in the middle of a conversation and then suddenly, boom, it stopped working. LOL. Holy shit. Are you fucking kidding me? They can't delete you. They can't delete that account that fast, right? Well, what other explanation is there, Chad? Is there a normal explanation for this? How can you delete someone's account like that? It's like, what they, if they even, what could they have done? Hacked it? They hacked it and then disabled it, or hacked it and deleted it? That's the only thing I can think of. Dave wouldn't lie about something like this either. I mean, and I'm literally, I just read you the full message from 5-10 minutes ago. Wow. People in the chat started noticing, and I just went and looked. Holy shit, chat. This is getting dark, bro. This is definitely starting to get dark. Did he even post this on his, did he even post anything on his Twitter yesterday? Like, as far as I know, Dave hasn't even been posting on Twitter at all, or on X, whatever we call it now. Wow, bro. This is getting scary. This is actually getting creepy. Like, I've got to be careful about what I say as well, because I don't want to give anybody any excuses to take down my content. I mean, I've had 2-factor set up on my account for the whole last year. I was not taking any chances. This is wild. His YouTube, I think, is Generation Z. Someone go check his YouTube, because I downloaded that video, so I don't know. Yeah, if they... Wow. But this is what I want to point. Like, let's not get too crazy about this. Oh, the last thing he was posting about half an hour ago. Oh, he was beefing with TJ from Texas. Yo, you got to just ignore T Powell, guys. T Powell's got some shit going on, man. Just ignore that guy, man. I don't know why he's so obsessed. It does sound like somebody. I'm not going to go ahead and say that the government did it, but oof, that's scary, chat. Still scary. The reason why it's scary is that no, not TJ from Skinwalker Ranch. That's TJ Allard. That's for some reason we get in arguments with TJs a lot. This is what they do on Reddit, though. Like, this is what the government does on Reddit. If you make a post on Reddit that is like revealing the government's secrets, they delete your account. Your account's just gone. We actually saw it happen in real time with EBO scientist post. Literally got deleted while they were replying to people, which sounds really similar to what happened to Dave here. Pretty bizarre, man. I don't know. I told him to just try to do a recovery or something on it. I don't know what you can do. That's wild, though. He needs to put in a support ticket, though. Maybe I'll put one in for him, actually. We'll see. Holy shit, chat. They should be able to recover his account. Bro, you said it, not me, but I'm not going to go ahead and argue with you. I tell Dave, don't argue with these random internet losers and shit. Like, just let them live their lives, man. They're going to be obsessed or whatever, right? There's a lot of internet losers, especially if someone's going to remain anonymous. If they're so much of a coward that they're going to remain anonymous, like, just don't waste your time arguing with them. Huh. Anyway, okay. Yeah, that sounds like someone got their feelings hurt or something. Yeah, this going back to T. Powell is pretty sus, man. I'm not saying that guy, TJ, is a government operative. I'm just saying, like, if he was a government operative, how would his actions look any different? How would they look any different? They wouldn't. So part of it, too, is if you don't want to be, some of these Redditors get so mad because, for the record, I don't have any alt accounts. I don't have time for that shit. People in the past used to claim that all these accounts are me because that's what they do is they make all these fake accounts up. If you're mad, if you're a Redditor who's mad that people are calling you a government operative, stop acting like a government operative. If something is fake, just move on with your life. If you don't think something's real, move on with your life and go do something else. The only reason why you would be arguing and trying to claim that people are scammers and shit like that is because you're insecure in your beliefs. That's the only reason. It's the only reason. Like, I don't go, I don't think that the earth is flat, but you don't see me going to flat earther replies going, you're an idiot who thinks the earth is flat. You're a scammer trying to convince people that the earth is flat, because I just don't care. It means nothing to me. Literally nothing to me. So this kind of reveals that for a lot of these people is this massive ego and insecurity that like their lives are a lie and that they need to somehow convince the world, like they're looking for affirmation. Your life isn't a lie. Don't worry. Your life is not a lie. You're okay. You're okay. I'm not going to go dig into the drama of the Twitter stuff. I just don't care, chat. I just don't care. And I'm not interested in trying to, the other thing too, is that like, I'm not trying to start, what are they called? Brigades or against anybody or anything like that. I don't do that shit either. I could. I have 170,000 followers. I could be brigading people and slamming them, telling people to harass these people. I don't do that. I don't ever do that because I don't care. But I do find it funny that when I do quote tweet people who quote tweet me, they're like, you're bullying me with your followers. Well, if you didn't want the attention, then you shouldn't try to call me out publicly. So just a quick warning, like if you call me out publicly, you're probably going to get the full weight of all the people that follow me back down on you. And you shouldn't be surprised. What else are you expecting when you do that? You're asking for the attention. I'm just giving it to you. Isn't that what you want? Okay. Now, I want to show this clip real quick as well, because I thought this was huge. So I haven't gone on Reddit in a few days, and I decided to check it out this morning. And I noticed that somebody had posted this clip, which was actually really good. Wait, did I do the right one? Let me try this again. I don't know if I presented the right thing here. This clip was actually really good. And so what they did is they took the videos. Now, this is the like inverted side-by-side comparison. And they just have AJ from the Y-Files talking over it. And he mentions Salvatore Pais' patent at the end. I'm going to let the whole thing play.
2003, E-115 was discovered. A whistleblower came forward just a few weeks ago. He claims to have been a military contractor working on reverse engineering UFOs. He said their engines use counter-rotating cylinders with element 115 as the power source. Russian physicist Nikolai Kozyrev believed the twisting and spinning of space-time called torsion was the secret to unlocking gravity and unlocking everything. In 2019, an engineer working for the U.S. Navy filed a patent for a plasma compression fusion device. This is a machine that can generate a tremendous amount of power, like terawatts of power in a small package. The device is about the size of a car, but can put out as much energy as a nuclear power plant. If it's real, the energy is clean and unlimited. His invention is based on spin. But in 2003, E-115...
Wow. I mean, size of a car, that's basically exactly the size of our orbs. I mean, he's just explaining the orbs, and that's Salvatore Pais' patent that he explained there at the end. Now, the Bob Lazar reference is interesting as well. Before I jump to that, I don't know what PRNU is, and I've seen Mike Bentz's stuff. Yeah, he's on the mark. He puts subscribers on, though, so I can't see all his content, but sure. The people that are talking about the censorship stuff, yeah, they're right. It just goes, it's a lot darker. What are they censoring? Now, the Bob Lazar stuff's interesting because the only thing that I have disagreed with Bob Lazar on is the element 115. There's nothing in anything that we research that says we need some element 115 to make this work. You don't need that at all. Just a matter of understanding static electricity and positive and negative charges and current. That's really it. We don't need element 115. So that's why I thought that Salvatore Pais' comments about figuring out alien technology and then making it our own were really interesting. Because if that is true, then Bob Lazar can be true, and so can, that technology can still be us. So that's some pretty interesting stuff with respect to what we learned here today, guys. Okay, let's see. Yeah, what is static electricity? I guess static electricity is just an asymmetry of charges, I would assume, right? Allowing a current to flow. But where does it come from? Where does it come from? Okay. Let's see. Last thing we've got here. Think I'm going to do a quick statement on this, guys. And I may post it to TikTok if it goes well. We'll see. I maybe edit it as well. Here's a good question from Baker's Tut. Bakers, I didn't know you were a 9/11 truther, but I saw a link to one of your videos that seemed like you guys were arguing with Jeremy Reese or arguing with other people. So anyway, I just think it's interesting that there's people from all atmospheres, all walks of life. They all get mad at these videos for whatever reason. It's kind of funny that somebody who believed that 9/11 was some sort of elaborate inside job or whatever you think, like you're going to come down on these. You're going to be, I'm sure these videos are fake. Come on, man. Come on. Remember what I said about don't throw stones if you're in a glass house? That's the thing that I think is absurd. Now, yeah, and it's the division, right? To Crypto Alchemist's point, like it's the division that's holding us back here. And the infighting just works into the favor of the intelligence communities. They're doing horrible shit for sure. They are for sure. Okay. So what I'm going to say here is I'm going to make a quick statement, maybe edit this for TikTok, maybe not. I don't know. But so I am Ashton Forbes of the MH370 investigation, researcher of the MH370 videos. Once upon a time, I decided to ask the question, what if these videos are real? And I have come to the conclusion that they absolutely must be real after investigating the missing plane, the science, and the history of the technology. There are defense intelligence research documents that are out there. Wormholes, warp drives, and negative energy. And we've got another one out there about traversable wormhole crap. Screwed up. I don't think I want that. Okay. Oh yeah, okay. Sorry. I'm gonna let me start over, chat. Just doing it right off the cuff. Okay, one more try. I'm Ashton Forbes of the MH370 investigation, and I've been researching the MH370 videos for the last year. I dug into the investigation of the missing plane, of the videos themselves, and of the science around what we see in the videos. And what I discovered is that there are engineers going back at least 40 years that have been pointing out that 0-point energy is the answer to gravity manipulation and the answer to free energy. The Defense Intelligence Research documents, also known as the DIRDs, point out how this technology is possible. Warp drives, dark energy, and the manipulation of extra dimensions, wormholes, stargates, and negative energy are just two examples of those papers that explain how we see orbs moving in the way that we do in the MH370 videos. This technology is our power, humanity's power, that we have figured out, that we deserve, that deserves to be publicly available. I've researched the plane. I've researched the science. I've identified the leaker as Lieutenant Commander Edward C. Lynn. I've identified the engineer of the orbs as Dr. Salvatore Pais. A couple weeks ago, he reached out to me and he asked me, if you go on Joe Rogan or Tucker Carlson, bring me with you. Yesterday, he issued a statement saying that people should take his work seriously and that we have to come together as a species if we want to be able to move to the next echelon of our civilization. I implore people to take Dr. Salvatore Pais seriously. I want people out there to remember just a few things. Space is not empty. All points in space and time are connected. MH370 didn't disappear itself. And in 2024, all lies will be exposed. Booyah, chat. Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. I think that'll work. Okay, so the big takeaway there, if you guys did not know, 2 weeks ago, Salvatore Pais sent me an email saying, please take me with you. He asked me how Candace Owens went, and he said, please take me with you if you go on Tucker Carlson or Joe Rogan. And I didn't reply back until last week. And after I had realized, holy shit, Salvatore Pais either made those orbs or he knows who did, I immediately got on my email and I said, yep, you're in. Now, the only reason why I hesitated was because I have so much content to go through when I do interviews. I spoke to Candace Owens for over 2.5 hours, and I was only really able to talk about science for like 30 minutes of it because there's just so much investigative content related to the missing plane. And I really wanted to harp on the fact that there's clearly a cover-up at play with regarding the plane. But if I were to go on someone as big as Joe Rogan, as big as Tucker Carlson, and I've got the guy who engineered the orbs, you got to bring him with. You got to bring him with in that situation, right? Well, what choice do you have? I mean, he might just go there. I mean, they're going to ask him like, hey, did you make these orbs? Do you know who did? And no matter what he says, we'll learn a lot of information. So, again, I don't know what PRNU is. If somebody can tell me what that stands for, that would really help. I'm not good with acronyms. So, I don't know that Joe Rogan or Tucker Carlson will get that message. I don't know that they will eventually have me on. I think that Joe Rogan, I probably burnt that bridge pretty badly. Not that I said anything rude to him, but he thinks that I'm maybe a hoaxer or a scammer or whatever he thinks. I don't know. Eventually it will become to the point where it's too awkward not to have me on, especially because the science is going to be more and more proven correct as time goes on. So so that's my statement about all this stuff. And then my statement for the people that are hiding this or whatever is just let it come out, man. Let's stop lying. We're in a situation now where we've been lying for so long that we are trapped in a corner where it's just making it worse and worse and worse. It's like if you're cheating on your significant other, after several years, your relationship's got to such a toxic point that you can't even tell the truth because you've made it so much worse by lying about it, as opposed to just being honest about it. We just have to be honest about it. So this is what I'm going to propose for the intelligence communities that are hiding this, the private military contractors, the corporations, the people that are going to face the liability. Now I'm talking specifically about people like John Brennan, James Clapper, Barack Obama, Joe Biden probably knows. Talking about our current defense director of the CIA, as well as Avril Haines, who's current director of national intelligence. If you let this information come out and you don't try to discredit, censor, disappear me or Dave or Sal or the rest of us, then I will offer amnesty when it comes out. I will be an advocate to not have you go to prison for the rest of your life or be executed or whatever that the punishment might be. Or hell, these people may say, well, we're above the law. We don't care. Well, I could also just destroy you in social media as well. Like I've got a massive following. And if I run a social media campaign on you to just make you out to be the worst human being in the world, which you kind of are already, it will be effective. It will be very effective. So that's my proposal, is that if you let us do this, then I'll come out and I'll offer amnesty. And I'll say, look, intelligence agencies did some horrible shit. We disappeared a civilian airliner, right? But we did it because we thought it was in the best interest of national security. And that will soften the blow. And I think that's the only way that we can really get this information out, because these people will need amnesty because they've been committing crimes. They've been committing crimes, civil crimes and, criminal crimes. They've been doing both of them. And the truth is, unless these people are protected, they're never going to admit to it. They're never going to admit to it. But if they don't take this offer and instead try to attack and discredit my friends or myself, then I'm just going to say their names on every single podcast I go on and say these people know, and make it so awkward. I'm going to do to them what I did to Jeff Wise, which is that everybody asked Jeff Wise on every single one of his things, look into Ashton Forbes. What do you think about MH370? Even Lou Elizondo's getting questions from Glenn Beck because it's so awkward. And I'm going to make you have to lie. So if you don't want that kind of treatment, then just let this come out. It's time. I understand the world might end, whatever. That's up for us. That's our fate to decide. We can figure out a way to keep it safe, but we have to let the world have free energy. We have to. It's time for us to have Star Trek age. I want it in my lifetime, not 1,000 years from now, 100 years from now, whatever other bullshit. Okay. Now, so there was two little clips. I think it was about 135, and then I might clip that second one as well. Now, Baker's Tut asked another question here. What happened to my Reddit account? My Reddit account got permanently banned. I don't know where that question was, but somebody asked. Additional ad, whatever my name was, 3796. Yeah, that was me. That was the only account that I had. I created it last year when I decided that I wanted, even though I hate Reddit, I decided, okay, well, we got to try to broaden our audience. I made a post about free energy. You can find my free energy post on conspiracy subreddit. That was the only subreddit I posted on after my subreddit got banned. I got banned from the subreddit about the videos. So I posted about free energy. I explained exactly how free energy was possible. I had a bunch of people, trying to rag on me, pull up all bullshit. The debunkers came in there. And I replied to somebody who was saying that there was a bunch of bots and stuff in the account. Said, yeah, a lot of Redditors are just mentally ill, and they've been running a disinformation campaign against me. And that was the message, the post or the reply that they used to claim that I was spreading hateful rhetoric against people. Like literally, they used the racism rule against me, and they permanently banned my account. No warning, nothing, permanently banned. I appealed and said, it's not even like I was calling a specific person mentally ill. I just said Redditors are mentally ill. That is somehow hateful conduct, which is crazy, completely fucking crazy, because these same exact Redditors, if you go to any thread about Ashley Babbitt, who was shot to death by Michael Byrd on January 6th, in cold blood, not a threat to him in any way, no weapon, not doing anything violent. He shot her to death in cold blood, and you'll see dozens of posts about how she deserved it, how she's a traitor, how she's literally the most hateful shit you could possibly imagine. And it's specific towards somebody that literally harms her family. Nobody gets any censorship against that. But if I make a random comment, not against any one person, permanent ban. In fact, in that same comment they banned me for, it says, ask yourself who doesn't want you to know about free energy. So there you guys go. Now that kind of feeds into the Dave Rossi thing as well, where why is Dave's Twitter account all of a sudden just gone? Did somebody hack it and they deleted it? What's going on here? It's pretty bizarre. And that's why also when I look at Reddit, I read the comments in some of them, and I see all the same people, all the same debunkers every single time. Alpha Debacle is there. Where in Texas is always there every single time. These people's full-time job is to any new post that comes up, they got to have all their comments in there. And people constantly point out that one of the biggest things that keeps people going is that why is there such an active disinformation campaign trying to hide these videos? It's obvious to anybody paying any attention. This is not organic at all. And you see that, and I'm happy that people notice it, because yes, that should bring you major amounts of pause, especially when people are trying to convince you, ignore your eyes, ignore what you see with your eyes, ignore that there's engineers who have patents for all this stuff, ignore that we found the guy who's the leaker. They want you to ignore all this. They want you to ignore that we figured out the science, that 0-point energy is what unifies all of physics. They want you to ignore all that, and they want you to say, well, we found one frame of a stock asset that a one-day-old Reddit account found, and it looks pretty similar. In fact, we're going to say that it's too similar to be a coincidence. Therefore, that debunks all of this. What? That's it? To tell you guys the truth, when the one frame came out last year, I remember vividly, it was August 19th of last year. I sat there thinking, this has got to be like a joke. People aren't really falling for this. It wasn't even the same color. It was clearly not a match on, even if I had agreed there was a match on one frame, which I don't, it wasn't even close on the other frames. And I just sat there and think, how are people falling for this? Like, how are people really think that this actually matches when it clearly doesn't, when you just look at it with your eyes? Like, it's similar, so it's obvious that someone found an asset that was similar enough that it would convince primitives. And it does. What I realized right away is that most people are primitive on this planet. They don't have critical thinking capabilities. They don't have the ability to think for themselves. They just look at it and they go, that's good enough. One frame that's kind of similar. These two dots there can't be two times where these two dots are in a similar spot. That's not possible to them. And you're like, holy shit, man. That's what we're dealing with? Whew. We got a long way to go, chat. We got a long way to go. And that's why this has been so difficult for the most part. But yeah, I mean, it fits in. Like, if the videos that we looked at, I'll show one more time. This is my favorite version of the videos, by the way, the black and blue version. Somebody asked for this earlier today. If these videos are real, and this is what happened on the plane, where the hell is the black and blue version? Here it is. If this video is real, then of course the government is going to they're going to run a disinformation campaign. Like, they have to. They have to. You have to discredit. If you don't discredit this, it's going to get national attention. And it's like literally the least they could do is like, we're going to find a similar asset that looks similar, at least on one frame. And then we give it to these debunker people that we know are doing our work for us, and we have them spread it. Like, that's exactly how the intelligence community operates. And they do it indirectly. They have a one-day-old burner account, find the asset, and then they hand it off. And all the Redditors go, it doesn't matter where it came from. It doesn't matter. Ignore that it came from a one-day-old Reddit account. Why the hell is it coming from a one-day-old Reddit account? Why was it planted on the internet in January 2023, like right before these videos got posted on Reddit? Most recently. Well, like, come on, man. Why are there pictures on a random old-ass obsolete stock photo background website that are showing the clouds in our satellite video? Why is that out there? I mean, to me, if you realize these videos are real, there really is only one answer. Somebody planted those images out there. To think that somebody made these videos even with this slow-mo part in them, they would have to have read the DIRDs that we showed, the Defense Intelligence Research. They would have to have read them. How do they know what to make this look like? How do they know that you remove the 0-point energy in front of you and that's what allows anti-gravity? How do they know that? So there's people out there. Hey, Loomer Fan Club. Nice to see you. Big fan of Laura Loomer and Loomer Fan Club. So there's people out there that think they're like, oh, somebody could have made these videos, but they don't think that the intelligence communities could just plant the satellite imagery on the internet. Of course they can. Having the intelligence community plant the satellite imagery on the internet is like the most basic shit that they would do. I would expect them to do way more complex stuff than that. So the last thing is, sometimes people say, oh, Ashton, didn't you like try to admit the videos were fake or whatever? No, what happened to me was I realized, holy shit, the intelligence community put a vaguely similar VFX out on the internet and it fooled everybody. And then they also planted some cloud images from the satellite imagery that they probably manipulated with AI to make it look like it was part of an existing set of camera photos, even though those images aren't on the Wayback Machine until 2016, and other images in the same set are, and they go back to 2012. It's like those images are missing. People just don't even think twice about that. It's like that. It freaks me out that people are so stupid. That's what freaks me out more than anything else. That's what freaks me out more than anything else. We've literally got a missing plane. It would be one thing if we found the plane and there was a bunch of dead bodies on it and we found everything. Then I wouldn't blame people for trying to Sandy Hook me and being like, you're trying to hurt the families and all this shit, right? Like, if we had already solved it, that would be one thing. But we searched everywhere and there's no plane. At some point, the people that are so sure about their position in this world need to say, we have to start thinking outside the box. We have to start looking for other answers, right? Okay, guys, I think I was going to do the review the stream or the past interview with Salvatore Pais and Dave, but maybe we'll hang off on that. I kind of want to watch it myself and then pick out some clips, and then maybe we can watch it on Wednesday as a new topic. I think that would be fun. I'm just looking through some of the questions here. Yeah, and so some people say about the frame too is like people say, oh, it'll be easy. One of the things I hear all the time is people say, oh, it'll be easy to do that, and then nobody can ever do it. Oh, it'd be easy just to manipulate all the frames of this asset to make it look completely different. And I say, okay, well then give me the recreation steps. Like figure it out and give me the exact recreation steps to make it a 1-for-1 perfect pixel perfect match. Nope, nobody will ever do that. And that goes to show that people are full of shit. People say, oh, it'd be easy to recreate the videos. Okay, go recreate both videos. We have 2 videos in perfect synchronization from 2 completely different angles. People can't even do it today with 2024 technology and software, let alone 2014 rendering a 3D environment. Like, man, this is not an easy task. So when people come out and they say, oh, it's easy, they're already lying to themselves. They're already lying to themselves on this. So, and here's the last kicker, guys. I don't want to litigate this on social media. This doesn't deserve to be litigated on social media. Like I said, I've already identified the leaker. I've already identified the guy that made the orbs. We've already determined that there's clearly a cover-up with respect to the plane the United States government knows. It doesn't matter what side of the argument you're on. If you think the videos are fake, you think the videos are real. We absolutely must have a response from the U.S. government. U.S. government needs to issue an on-the-record response to these videos. Hell, I gave them to AARO, and the AARO is ghosting me. Guys, like, you couldn't have more red flags going up here. Everybody else goes, oh, well, they're just ignoring it because they think it's fake. No, when something's fake, you have a million people telling you why it's fake and how it's fake, and issuing strong-worded letters about how this is harmful because it's totally fake. When something's real, what you have is radio silence. Radio silence across the board. And that's what we've got going on here. Radio silence. So last thing I'll say for tonight, and then we're going to hang it up. Barack Obama knows the reason why I'm not voting for Kamala Harris. Well, there's a lot of reasons, but one of them is because she's in the Barack Obama, Joe Biden family. And I'm sure that there's puppet masters holding these people by the strings at this point. And they want Kamala Harris to win because if she wins, then they're protected for another 4 years. If somebody else wins, then they might get exposed. So they know, James Clapper knows, John Brennan knows, Avril Haines knows as well. And I've also now got on the record and said, you guys should also talk to Marco Rubio as well as Chuck Schumer. There's a Democrat and a Republican. So I'm being unbiased here. These guys are on the Senate Intelligence Committee. Okay. Schumer's been in office forever. I think Marco Rubio has been in office since 2012 as well. These guys know that the videos are real. They know that we did some shit to the plane. We can literally get the truth if we just start forcing people to ask questions. Start asking tough questions, just like Glenn Beck did to Lou Elizondo. It's like, hey, have you heard about MH370? Next thing we see, in fact, I'm going to play it. Look at the demeanor change in Lou Elizondo. the moment Glenn Beck asked them about MH370.
Did you see the theory on the missing Malaysia airliner where it was? Have you seen that?
I've seen it, and I'm always very careful for me, Glenn, because recently. So look, I'm a science guy, right? I've always just follow the science. Recently, about 3 weeks ago, Google, someone on Wikipedia decided to label me as a quote unquote conspiracy theorist. I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all. That's just.
I'm not a conspiracy. I just listened to him on Don Jr. He was with Donald Trump Jr. and just said there's aliens flying around there and that we've been covering this all up. And he even mentioned the JFK files and other conspiracies as well. I can't even remember what they were. He listed off like 3 or 4 different conspiracies. Lou Elizondo did with Don Jr. He's not a conspiracy theory guy. He basically just said we killed JFK and all this other weird shit that we did in the past. Iran-Contra, all this other stuff. Like, yes, you're a conspiracy guy. You're literally on this show with Glenn Beck promoting a conspiracy.
Right.
Someone trying to minimize, this
right.
topic and kind of chip away at the narrative. I'm very careful to be open-minded about everything. I know that the Malaysia airline, there were some people that were claiming there was maybe some UAP involvement.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Bro, he's so full of shit. He knows who I am, man. This is like what he did with Stephen Greer, where he's like, I don't know who Stephen Greer is. Bro, your whole job is counterintelligence. Are you really trying to pretend like you don't know who I am? Also, did you notice that, especially early on, people wouldn't say my name? They wouldn't say my name. They would talk about that guy proposing MH370 like they don't know who I am and shit like that. And this is because this is what you're supposed to do if you're a counter intel guy. You don't want someone to draw attention to the truth. So they can't say, oh, that guy Ashton Forbes was talking about it. He knows who I am. He knows who I am. He literally had someone go up to him during Danny Sheehan's thing in DC a few weeks ago and ask him about me. And he lied to that person. He knows, bro. He knows. He blocked me. How could he not know? Yeah, we need a new definitions for conspiracy and theories and what have you.
I did not pursue it. I know some of the people that I've talked to who were dead for it and dead against it. Something it's a complete nonsense. Right. It's fake. Others said, no, that looks legit. And I could not tell you, Len. I have.
This is a huge lie. It's a huge lie. This guy has worked with David Grush. David Grush works for the National Security Agency, the NSA. The NSA is the ones who are reviewing the footage that comes from the NGO and the NGA when we see UFO stuff in the air. That's like what Lou Elizondo is blowing the whistle on. So to claim like we don't know, bro, if you've seen anything similar to these videos, you would know the videos are real. And it turns out we know Lou Elizondo did. Lou Elizondo wrote about a triangle formation orbs that were illuminated energy balls, and we've been seeing them all over.
No idea. Okay. I am not I do not go down the conspiracy rabbit hole very often.
You don't go down the conspiracy rabbit hole. You were on an interview today talking about JFK and Iran-Contra and all this other shit. Yes, you do. You're talking about aliens that we've been covering up.
Often, simply because I'm trying to remain open-minded towards everything if I can.
I'm trying to remain open-minded, but I don't research anything. Well, here you go. Here's something to research. What the hell is this? What is this? What am I looking at? I'm just going to mute it here. What am I looking at right here? Am I looking at 3 orbs in a triangle formation floating around through the sky? And what does it say? 2023 at the top? 8/12/2023. I don't know if that's American date or European date. So that's either August 12th, 2023, or that's December 8th, 2023. So that was less than a year ago. And we're watching orbs flying around through the sky in a triangle formation. If you think this is the only video I have, no. We've got like 6 videos showing orbs flying around like this. At some point, we got to go, hey, man, like maybe there's something to these floaty orbs. Maybe they're all not fake. Like maybe there actually just is some floaty orbs flying around in triangle formation out in the sky. I don't know. Doesn't mean it's aliens. Just means we got some shit flying around. We got to figure out what it is. Okay, so that's enough ragging on people, guys. Thanks everybody for being here. Thanks Loomer Fan Club. I saw you there, Ponderbuck. Crypto, appreciate you, bro. Just see if there's any last questions before we close out here tonight. Yeah, the difference between conspiracy theories and the truth is like 6 months, or in our case, maybe like 6 years. I have no idea when they're going to get this out. But another reason why I'm voting for Trump is that I think there's a less than or more than 0% chance that he would actually reveal something like this. It's pretty much like 1%, but there's still some chance that it's possible. Yeah, okay. Okay, I think that's it, guys. You guys have a good night. Appreciate you guys. And we're going to play us out with a different video tonight. We're going to play us out with, which song are we going to do? Let's go with, you know what? We'll go out the Cypher. We haven't played this Cypher in a while, the Pepe Cypher. Okay, guys. Have a good night.
Infrared eyes, scanning the black. Tracking the heat, never turning back. Control 22, a covert gaze. Control 33, in the cosmic maze. Controls in the mix, secrets untold. Silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interests, far and wide. As fierce, sentinel of the night. Watching over with infrared sight. Alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. In the silence of space, they keep their post, shields unseen yet feared the most. With precision and speed, they warn of danger, keeping us safe from the missile's anger. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. And roles in the mix, secrets untold, silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interests, far and wide. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching